What's going on, Kingdom Warriors? I hope you guys are all doing awesome, having a blessed day. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite investments and one that I think has a lot of potential opportunity in the not so distant future, and that is silver. Now, if this video reaches 1,000 likes, I'm going to be sending the first person to comment that 1 ounce of silver. Now, 1 ounce of silver is only about $33 at the moment, but we're going to be talking about why this 1 ounce could be worth upwards of $1,000, maybe even more in the not so distant future. And the first thing I want to look at is called the GSR, and that's the gold to silver ratio. Now, why does the gold to silver ratio matter to investors and traders? This ratio helps those who are trading precious metals and assets to understand the relative value. A high ratio may signal that silver is undervalued, encouraging investors to purchase silver. A low ratio may suggest that gold is the better buy, and this tool assists in timing decisions to buy gold or silver and helps manage risk within a diversified portfolio that may include assets like stocks. So essentially, it's kind of used as an indicator to those who trade precious metals between gold and silver. And the reason is because up into silver ratio never really went beyond 15 to 1, meaning that 15 pieces of silver or 15 ounces of silver were equivalent to 1 ounce of gold. And if you go all the way back to the first king of Egypt, King Menes, he set the ratio at 2.5 ounces of silver to 1 ounce of gold. And then the Roman Empire, it was about 10 to 1, fluctuated a little bit, but it pretty much never really went beyond 15 to 1 until modern times, right around the time of the Industrial Revolution, which I find interesting. Once business started, once stocks started, once businessmen in Wall Street got involved, it got completely out of whack. And the highest it's ever been would have been around COVID when gold prices absolutely skyrocketed and the ratio was upwards of 125 to 1. And it's down a little bit since then, but it's still at 100 to 1. So it's about 100 pieces of silver is equivalent to 1 ounce of gold. So I want to talk about why I feel that this is a really good opportunity outside of just the fact that there's been so much prophetic words about precious metals in general, but particularly silver. And I've always felt strongly that silver is going to be the better asset or the better buy, at least for right now in the time period we're in. And I want to talk about some reasons why that is. Now, if you look at this chart, this is kind of just highlighting what I just mentioned, the historical gold to silver ratio, silver ounces per gold ounces. And you can see it goes all the way back to ancient Egyptian times. And it was pretty much flat till the US Coinage Act of 1792. And then boom, you can see it shoots up to like 100. And again, it's manipulation. It's man getting involved. It's us starting to involve our business and stocks and trading and things of that nature. And you can see pretty much since then, it's been much more volatile than it's ever been. And since 2011, gold has just kind of been on a upward trajectory. So I find this chart interesting. I think that it kind of paints a more clear picture of how out of whack things are right now. As you can see that it's kind of just shot up pretty much since 2011. At least the value of gold has. And silver's gone up as well. I have two family members that I convinced to take a pretty good portion of their 401k and buy silver 1 ounce physical coins. And their timing was good. They got in at about $23 an ounce, which would have been about a year and a half ago. And they're already up about $10 per ounce. But I believe that that investment is going to do a lot better in the near future. And I just want to kind of talk about why. Um, there are a few main reasons why you want to look into precious metals and kind of assets in general, but especially precious metals. And that's just simply because the demand is and pretty much always has been greater than the supply. This is something that's mined out of the earth, and the amount that they've been able to pull out of the earth has actually been decreasing over the last 10 years or so. The overall amount that's available has been pretty consistent for now, but that's because due to the increased demand, there's been a lot more emphasis on recycling. So a lot of things that people used to throw away, they're melting them down for the little bits of silver that they have in them. So it's keeping the overall output that's becoming available in the market about consistent, but the actual amount that's been pulled from the ground is actually decreasing. The second reason is going to be inflation. The third reason is going to be just the fact that it has a proven history, proven track record. It has always been used as money throughout every empire, throughout every civilization. They have always used gold and silver. And the last reason is my opinion is that it's undervalued. Now let's touch on the inflation aspect a little bit. If you look at inflation, a lot of you know that things used to be much cheaper, even 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even. We've had a lot of inflation from the money printing. What backs the money, assuming that we have the gold in Fort Knox and everywhere it's supposed to be, it does not change. So the more money that we print, the less each dollar is worth. It devalues it. And a really good emphasis on that, a really good way to look at that is when you look at the cost of living in 1971. In 1971, the average house was $25,000. The average income was about $10,600 a year. The average brand new car was $3,500. The average rent was $150 a month. Tuition to Harvard, $2,600 a year. A movie ticket, $1.50. Gasoline, 40 cents per gallon. A postage stamp, 8 cents. Now, another thing I want to touch on that I think illustrates the picture that I'm trying to paint here is this news article. So JP Morgan in 2020, they were ordered to pay $920 million for manipulating precious metals. Now, you can actually buy a silver stock, and a lot of people like to do that. One of the benefits of that is it's really liquid. You could just buy $1 million of it like that and you have it. But the problem is you don't have it. You have a paper certificate, right? And there are kind of emergency acts a lot of people don't know about where, when things get liquidated, there are certain people that are the first to get paid out. And it's a possibility that you may not see those returns, although you might hold a paper certificate or something that says you're the owner. Whereas that's not going to happen when you have a physical thing, but that is an option. But like I mentioned here, they've been caught, JP Morgan, manipulating those prices. And that's the reason why when you look at the chart that I showed earlier, that kind of highlights how since about the 1700s, the price became very volatile. You can see that once businesses and men got involved, and we started to kind of commercialize it, how volatile the prices have been and how unstable it is. And it just illustrates that you have to be really careful. There's also short squeezes. You guys may have seen the movie The Big Short. It's a great movie with Christian Bale. You can check it out. But a lot of times, Wall Street they'll short a stock, which is pretty much they're betting on it to go down, and they make money when it goes down. But what a lot of people don't realize is oftentimes, like what happened with GameStop recently, once they short it, once they put their money on it for it to go down, they'll do a lot of manipulation in the background. They'll use the press to release news articles, negative news. They have all sorts of ways of manipulating things, but they're kind of on both ends controlling a lot of things. And it doesn't always work in their favor, but they tend to win 99% of the time. And precious metals are one of those things, especially silver, in my opinion. Now, the reasons are really complex behind why they do it, but they have their reasons, and the price of silver is very suppressed. And if you do research on that, you will find that that's absolutely true. And I don't think it's just silver. I just think silver is the most suppressed. And when it kind of snaps to where it's actually needs to be for the world systems, and especially with this global reset that seems to be taking place, for all that to function, it's going to have to be valued properly. And who knows if that's going to happen over the course of a week, a month, a year, or overnight. I wouldn't be surprised if it happens in a very short period of time. And one of the reasons I want to highlight on why that is technology. Technology is a huge thing right now that actually requires silver. And a lot of people don't realize, even myself, I knew that silver was extremely conductive, but I didn't realize just how conductive it was. It's actually the most conductive metal there is. Now, when you look at this list of these 10 metals, you can see that of all the elements on the periodic table, silver is actually the most conductive, more so than gold. And I think that's interesting because although we've seen the GSR, the gold to silver ratio, as close as 1 to 15, we've never had the technology aspect involved, right? So you have, I think the top three for me are solar, electric vehicles, and not just electric vehicles, but rechargeable things in general. A lot of things that we used to put batteries in, they're rechargeable now, right? So, um, you name it, headphones, of course, electric vehicles, scooters. There's a lot of things now that we put a rechargeable battery inside of, and that requires a lot of conductivity. Now, you can make cheaper versions of these things, and so in those cases, you'll find other metals used. And what that pretty much means is that it's going to take longer to charge, right? Or depending on what it is. If it's something that's rechargeable, it's going to take longer to charge. If it is a like a solar panel, for example, it's going to charge faster. It's going to provide more electricity. But there are something called solid state batteries, and I believe Tesla has the best version of this. But solid state batteries are on the way, they're coming. And solid state batteries are going to charge in as fast as 9 minutes. They're going to charge really, really quickly. It's kind of a new technology that I believe is going to be released probably around 2026. And it's going to require a lot of silver because it's going to need extremely high conductivity. Right now, it could take all night to charge your car, but with these new solid state batteries, it's going to be really quick. And in order for them not to make too much heat, not to have the risk of exploding, like I don't know if you guys remember those hoverboards kids used to have, and a lot of times they would catch on fire. That's from the wires, and it's not created right. They're trying to use cheap materials that can't support that charge, and it catches on fire. And these car companies are not going to allow themselves to get sued, so they're going to require silver. Now, right now, an internal combustion engine requires about 15 to 28 grams of silver per vehicle to make it. An EV vehicle right now takes about 25 to 50 grams, but once these solid state vehicles start to come out, they're going to take about 1,000 grams of silver per vehicle. And they're going to have much longer ranges, 600 plus miles. They're going to charge much, much faster. But the trade off is that it's going to take a lot of silver. So that goes back to the whole supply and demand thing. Of course, you guys understand that that's what drives the price of things. And even with manipulation and the things that Wall Street does, when the demand gets so great, they can only suppress it so much. And oftentimes, when both things are happening at the same time, it causes a rapid increase in the price. And there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. If you've paid attention to the news, you've seen that there was a lot of places around the world that America stored some of its precious metals. They're requesting, when Donald Trump got in office, he started requesting a lot of those metals to be shipped back physically to the United States. There's a lot of precious metals just moving around from country to country. It's like they know something behind the scenes, which I think is that likely whoever's able to create the next currency that's backed by precious metals like how it used to be is going to be most likely the country that has the world reserve currency. And whoever has the world reserve currency has the greatest advantage of being the world superpower. It's one of the biggest reasons why America has been such a superpower for so long, because of the strength of the dollar. But right now, because of the vulnerability, a lot of other countries are smelling blood in the water. They're compiling lots of precious metals. And I believe this is one of the reasons why, which is just another big reason why it's probably a good thing, a good idea to hold on to. Another thing is warfare, actually. I was pretty surprised to learn that a lot of those bombs that they use, that they're able to track a plane, they shoot them out and they have self-tracking, and they'll follow something. They're almost like planes in themselves. They cost millions of dollars, and they have, in some cases, hundreds of pounds of silver. And think about this: when they use a bomb like that, the silver's gone, it explodes, right? So there are some uses of silver where it's actually decreasing the supply. Warfare requires a lot of silver in those technologies, and a lot of times they can never retrieve it, at least now with the technology they have. So that's another thing to consider. Another thing we can look at is solar panels and just solar energy in general. You guys have noticed there's been a big push lately to go green. There's been a lot of talk about going green, about being the most energy efficient country. A lot of countries brag about that. I know in Philadelphia, where I'm from, when the Eagles did their last stadium, which was a while ago now, it might have been like a decade ago, but they were bragging that it was the first completely self-sufficient. It had like these big wind turbines spinning on the top of it. It had solar panels, and they were making a big deal that they generated all the electricity they needed. They didn't have to pull from the grid, and they even had excess that they could put back into the grid. And you can see on this chart in the last 10 years or so that that's like going up exponentially. So it doesn't, these things are going anywhere. So when you consider the fact that historically the GSR has been closer to 15 to 1, but now we have this new aspect also of silver being an extremely important technology, it makes a strong case. And then, of course, all these countries vying to become the world reserve currency. When you combine all that, and let's not forget AI, AI might be the biggest of all these different things, because you know how companies are. Rather than working together, they're each trying to create their own brain, which is powered by GPUs. That's why Nvidia's stock has gone so high. They create the best GPU right now, which essentially is what enables AI to think. So these companies are making massive buildings that are full of GPUs, and they're looking for ways to cool them efficiently, but also the better the conductivity is, the more efficient they can work, right? It's just like, think of you as a person, your neural pathways in your brain. When you send a signal, to your finger or whatever, it's the equivalent of that in AI. But using silver is going to cause the greatest conductivity. And so that's going to be a strong driver as well moving forward. And a lot of these companies, um, I believe his name is Sam Altman from OpenAI. Elon Musk now has Grok. Google has Gemini, and there are many, many more. And they're constantly releasing new updates and adding to their servers and their GPUs and their hardware and their data centers. And so there's a huge pull from there as well. And I just think that precious metals in general, not just silver, are going to be a big thing moving forward in the future. And I don't think I can say confidently that they're going to start looking to mine in new places as well. They're going to be mining in the ocean. I believe a big thing that's not discussed much right now is actually mining off planet, because there are things that aren't even on our periodic table that have what you would consider almost like super physiological capabilities to cool. I mean, it just gets wacky, right? And I don't think it's a coincidence that three billionaires right now are all in outer space, right? They have kind of reasons of why. Elon Musk, he says that he's using SpaceX because he wants to take man to Mars. You have Richard Branson from Virgin Mobile. He has a company that's, going into outer space. I believe the reason for his is he says he wants to offer, if you can afford it, just to be able to go up into orbit and feel what it's like to be weightless. And then a lot of you guys saw recently, Jeff Bezos as well. He has a company, can't think of the name of it right now, but a lot of the billionaires are suddenly trying to get into outer space. And I wouldn't be surprised if Musk isn't trying to get to Mars, because he's got these massive, massive ships that have huge payloads. And he's saying it's to bring a lot of things there, but it could also be to, once they find a source of something that's valuable, to mine it and bring it back. And there's a lot about that, which is kind of a different topic, but something to keep your eye on as well. But mining in general is going to be big. And I know for me personally, when the silver I have, if it reaches any significant value, one of the things I definitely want to buy is land. And I believe that there are going to be a lot of people, especially believers in the future, that find that they own land and there could be minerals or a lot of valuable things in the land, you know? So I'm big on land. I'll make a separate video on that, and I'm going to start to talk more about um, some things that are really good investments. I'm a big believer in not only these things, but I like physical investments. I like things that you own, that you can touch, that you can taste. At the end of the day, you can have all the crypto you want, even all the gold and silver you want, but you can't eat it, you can't drink it. My absolute favorite is land. You can grow on it, you can dig a well, you can get clean water from it, you can run around on it, you can enjoy it. It's yours. You can walk around naked on it if you want to. I'm a big believer in land and land banking. I know someone that um, he bought like an acre lot like 20 years ago for like, a couple grand, and now it's worth like over $100,000. A lot of people that are very wise, they actually, instead of putting their money in the bank, it's called land banking. The taxes tend to be very low on land, especially if you have an agricultural exemption, and it appreciates much faster than many assets. And it's something that not a lot of people know about. And there's so much you can do with land. You One thing with land is you have to do your due diligence. You have to make sure that you have the rights to be able to, some people want to set it up for glamping, which is, like the glamorous camping, and they'll set up some water spouts and some things so that their guests are comfortable when they're there. Some people just drop like manufactured homes on them, and it's like the quickest way you can do development. I mean, there is so much you can do with land. It's my favorite thing. So we're going to talk about that in another video. But to wrap this one up, that is the primary reason why I think you guys should definitely keep your eye on silver. The GSR is way out of whack now. And if you know how to read charts, you can see in the chart it's due for a correction. I think aside from the things in the natural, there's a supernatural element to it. And God has plans for silver, for sure. I really believe he does, and it's going to bless a lot of people. Now, seek him on that, definitely, because I think timing is important as well. And even me, myself, I'm not as positioned in silver as I would like to be, but I believe there's going to be a time in the near future when it's a good time to buy. And keep in mind, when a lot of times people think like when the market crashes, like if everything crashed really bad, then gold and silver just shoot up like they did during COVID. And that is true, but typically they actually go down first. So that's an opportunity in itself. When the market crashes, a lot of people get margin called. A lot of people leverage their gold and silver. So in case they go bankrupt on something else, then this is their collateral. And so it liquidates automatically. A lot of people just have to sell their gold and silver because whatever other things they had in the market crash, they can't, pull from it anymore if they were living off of it. And so typically the first thing that happens is a lot of people liquidate and the price goes down. And then people start to come in for that opportunity and it goes up. So that's not to say it's bad to buy it now. It's just might not necessarily go straight up. There's a crash, but definitely in the longer term, and by longer term, in my opinion, not financial advice, the next few years, maybe even the next year, what I'm not sure of is if this is going to be an overnight thing, happen over the course of a week or a month, but it's going to be very quick, especially compared to what's taken place historically. So you can buy physical silver, you can buy a stock in silver. There's also actually a company I like a lot called Kinesis, and I have done my research on this company. This is actually a cryptocurrency company, but they back your holdings by physical silver. And this is probably going to be something that becomes a lot more popular once blockchain and the new system kind of takes place and is in place. But I believe Kinesis will be a main player. And I actually registered for them. You've got to go through know your customer and you have to get approved. And they actually have like a representative that's assigned to you. They can set up a call with you and talk to you and explain everything to you if you like, if you have questions. But Kinesis, I do trust far more than the stock market because, as you guys, if you understand blockchain, you understand that there's a ledger and you can actually see what's taking place. You can see the physical that's backing what you have in terms of the way it works is they have gold and they have silver and it just mirrors the price. So if silver is $30, then one coin of that crypto is $30. It mirrors the exact price. So it gives you exposure, but it also gives you a lot more liquidity. You can get into silver quickly. So my first choice is always physical. I believe I do have a coupon code actually for Kinesis. So I will put that in the description. If you guys want to check out Kinesis, definitely do that. I believe we both get something. I don't know if 10% off or a free coin or something, but there's an incentive for both of us. So that's something you guys can check out and do your due diligence on that. But I do like Kinesis. All right. So let me know if you guys like this content. Let me know if you enjoy it. It does take time to kind of research these things, but this is my wheelhouse. There's so many things that you guys can do, putting your crypto in an LLC for trading. So, you can offset, for example, when you're doing it as an individual, you might have Bitcoin that appreciates. You have $100,000 in gains here, but you might have, a meme coin that went down 100,000 and you're even. But when you're properly set up within the right LLC in a good state, then it's all looked at as one asset. So you can actually use your losses over here to offset your gains over here. And for a lot of people, for everyone, that's a huge benefit. Aside from the fact that you can write things off of each other that are separate cryptocurrencies, you also simplify your tax bill a lot. It's much easier to do. So, we can talk about these things. Just let me know if you guys want to see more content like this. There's so much more we can talk about land and all these different things. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it blessed you. And remember, we are all sons and daughters of the Most High God. So whatever you do, be royal, and I will catch you guys next time.